Welcome back. We are going to be going over the last dev diary before 1.1 drops on December 5th. And so this dev diary is mainly just an overview, so that's kind of what you're going to be in for. So if you've already heard of most of the features, it's not going to add too much listening to this, and so you might just want to click something else. If you just want to take a quick look at some of the new stuff, we're going to go through it. Okay, so bit of a chunky update, so I'm not going to go over the entries in detail. A lot of these have already been gone over, and they say, look at the previous dev diaries. Perfect, exactly what's going on. So, they reworked morale to inflict a base loss for every round of battle, modified by the difference in casualties inflicted between each side and other modifiers. This is to help prevent stalling out. Also, they tweaked the system so that it will reward you for putting multiple people on one front. Previously, just assigning a whole bunch of generals to one front was kind of just a way to just eat attrition because only one could fight at a time. Now what's going to happen is you'll take morale damage, you'll go into the bottom of the queue for the next battle, and so it'll prioritize high morale groups, and we'll see more morale damage, and battles get decided on the basis of morale more often, and so higher tech people will be able to do better. Reworked legitimacy to provide bonuses and penalties to country at different legitimacy levels. This is great. Currently, you don't care about legitimacy for any reason other than passing laws, and even then, it's just the speed. And so now you get penalties when you're at low ranks, and you get bonuses at high ranks. This was in the first part one. They talked about this. And then new legitimacy modifier based on votes in government. So as you get more votes, you become more legitimate. So this will make the amount of clout that you have, I think, more swingy, unless they are detaching the clout from legitimacy. And we'll see if that's the case with the elected governments. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work. Replace legitimacy penalty from government size with legitimacy penalty from ideological incoherence. This is great. Previously, you used to be able to go, what is it? You used to be able to go the coalition government. It's right underneath presidential republic, parliamentary republic, I think, and just put everyone in government and it wouldn't be a problem. Now you can't, or it's going to be difficult to put like the industrialists and the trade unions in government together because they have so much ideological incoherence. And so I hope that this adds quite a bit of nuance to the game. This, along with the legitimacy penalties, hopefully makes late game laws and interest groups somewhat dynamic. The thing that's interesting about this game is the interplay between production and interest groups. And right now, as it stands, kind of once you're like halfway through the game, you stop caring about interest groups because you got all the laws you want. Treaty ports will no longer function if the owner's power rank isn't greater than the market owners, ensuring great powers cannot use them to get the access markets of other great powers. This is kind of fixing how France would just become the strongest nation as a result of access to the British market and other factors, I think. And so in 1.06, France wasn't doing anywhere near as well as they were in the previous patches. But okay, rebalance legitimacy across all laws. This sounds pretty good. Currently, I'm thinking that they're going to do more to make the landowner stronger in the beginning, and so maybe this is more legitimacy, for monarchy. Or sorry, is it monarchy or absolutism? Can't remember. Anyways, added authority bonus to high and very high government wages. This is great. Previously, kind of paying out on extra government wages kind of didn't feel that worth it, and they added morale, recovery, and projection power bonus to very high military wages. I like this as well. Notably, I think you could kind of pay high military to get extra approval from the interest group, which they lowered the approval that you get from, tweaking up, which I rather like because these, both morale recovery and power projection and authority bonus, these are kind of more of a long-term kind of effect, whereas interest-group approval rating was kind of a short-term effect. So what you could do is, just to prevent groups from radicalizing, just when you're passing a law, tick up your wages and prevent the radicalization, and it just felt a little bit gamey, so this is nice. Lowered training rate penalty for very low military wages, okay. Buildings will now only raise wages if they are either competing for wages or are below the minimum wage target. The target is based on the employees' expected standard of living to prevent too much active radicalization. So a huge problem, especially if you're overbuilding, in my experience, is buildings will fire and then rehire so much. And hopefully this goes a long way to fixing that. And this is kind of what they're talking about. Building wage targets are lowered in unincorporated states and for discriminated pops. I like this as well. I think that currently the fact that your unincorporated territories tend to trend towards a standard of living similar to your incorporated territories is not ideal and not really the way that they want the game to work. And this ability to kind of bifurcate SOL in a controlled way based by incorporating or not incorporating states is, I think, kind of what you want. And I found that you generally want to have most of your manufacturing in incorporated states, so you actually want to have more migration attraction there, so you want to have higher wages there, and so all of this will kind of help. Laws that restrict culture and religious tolerance now give a decrease to radicals and increase to loyalists from accepted cultures, religions. The more restrictive the law, the higher the effect. Previously, so migration's overpowered, and I'm guessing it's still going to be overpowered. And previously, you would just want to open stuff as much as possible, and the only thing that being more and more religious would really give you is the extra authority, or more and more discriminatory. Now they're giving you another bonus to decreasing radicals. So if you really do have a homogeneous culture, then perhaps it is the way to go. Okay. Pops in unincorporated states now have their voting power reduced according to their incorporation level. Perfect. I thought that this is the way it was supposed to be before. Apparently not. Mass migration now only targets incorporated states. This is so good because, again, one of a big problem I think is migration is too powerful. This kind of lowers the power of migration overall. To avoid colonies being the main target of mass migration rather than e.g. the New World. That's a weirdly formulated sentence. Okay. Unincorporated states now have a lower expected standard of living. This is kind of just all in line with what we've been talking about. Rebalanced oil potential between rubber and oil, rebalance potentials. This is great because previously there just really wasn't enough, and I know oil they spread out a little bit just in case the development of either Russia or the US gets slowed down. Currently the AI just doesn't build enough. Actually, if there's any complaint I want to make about the AI, it's that they don't build construction centers at a very large rate, and so they just fall behind as a result of not having enough construction in general, and they just don't build enough in general. So hopefully that helps out a little bit. Rebalance power plant production method. Currently, hydropower feels just very painful, and when you get to the super late game, it feels like you almost have to switch back to hydropower because oil and coal get so expensive. Hopefully, this is helping out with that to some degree. The problem with the hydropower is it was really unprofitable, so you could just build more and more hydropower stuff, and electricity would still get expensive in your market, no matter what you did, because they weren't profitable enough to employ more people to produce more energy. And so I think that this rebalancing kind of will go to that. Rebalance port production methods to generally increase convoy production. This is nice if you had a kind of smaller nation. It was really annoying because it was hard to get enough convoys to do a lot of trade. So yeah, that's nice. Technology unlocks increase for potential port levels to increase sizes over time. This seems good to me. Kind of having it more spread out seems good. I'm guessing that's what they're doing. Maybe they're not. But we'll see. Replace Cape Colony with Persia as learn the game. Okay. Alright. AI. AI will no longer begin unifying until nationalism. Australian and Canada Confederation no longer forces annexation of player. AI acceptance for white peace increases over time the longer war goes on. This is great. So a lot of times you just get really stally wars that just can't do anything, and you just have to wait for the AI to tick down. And I think they're more likely to here it is. They're more likely to settle wars that are going nowhere with white peace. So this is terrific. Less likely to pursue annexation of subjects with whom they've. Okay, that's kind of a nothing burger. Now takes into account bankruptcy. It seems like they should have before. AI will stop enacting laws to avoid revolution. So AI kind of just revolution bombs. I think just skipping over most of these is kind of best. Great powers are more likely to declare an interest in Arabia while the Ottomans are trying to reclaim Syria. That's kind of interesting. Um, okay, interface. So a huge improvement that they're doing are they improving pop details with consumed goods. So now it's going to be much easier to access the consumed goods. Previously, this is a really important thing for trying to increase standard of living your pops, and they don't do anything to like kind of make the information accessible. You used to have to like go to 4 like drop down menus, and so this is going to change that. This is kind of the one of the biggest ones. Make the construction queue building say the state it is in it as well as make the items smaller. So this is great. The construction queue is kind of a little bit clunky. So I'm happy to see this. This consumption good thing was what I was talking about before. Now you'll get to see what your pops are consuming. And so they're kind of just incorporating mods that like people have been using or making for just highest like quality of life, because getting the information for this game in general just kind of feels kind of opaque, and so in a lot of spots the UI is just really bad, and so this helps a lot. Multiple changes to which notification types display as toast, middle of the screen versus feed, bottom right. My biggest complaint, or like most annoying thing regarding this, is every mass migration event displays as a toast, and it's just like gets really obnoxious over time. You know, you get this like notification that says, "Hey, this is important," but it's really not that important. And like if there was information regarding like migration that was like a little bit more transparent, then it would become a lot less important. Although there is you can hover over migration like attraction, and it'll show you where people are migrating to. I wish that the interface when you're building buildings, and hopefully they did this, would show both unemployed and peasants instead of just peasants, because they're like functionally the same thing for you. It's like you have excess labor that can be used as labor. Okay. Looks like they're improving interface more with the production methods. Yep. So all this seems good. Establish trade route map list panel now sorts markets alphabetically by name. This is interesting, or now can. I guess this makes if you want to do stuff trade with a specific country a little bit easier if you're doing it through that menu. Although I wouldn't do it through that menu. I would just highlight go over the nation on the map specifically and like click on their market and look and see what's expensive, and then just use clicking on the nation specifically. Okay. You can now cancel the Panama Suez. This is just kind of a bunch of this is just a bunch of events that is not that's particular to special nations. If you really want to see stuff that's going to be related to your country, you could probably just Control F your country. There's like the Tazimat reforms, which are like Ottomans. There's Manifest Destiny stuff, which is the U.S. There's China with defeating their rebellion. Whole bunch of stuff like in that realm. I'm not going to read through all of it. Railway research bonus in the atmospheric engine attack event now requires railway prereqs to be unlocked. That's kind of interesting. Cleaned up some stuff for modding, and then bug fixes. I'm not going to read through all these bug fixes, but logging system prevent log files from getting too large. Okay, so this is the biggest, most annoying bug. Is before, if you got too much approval with the interest group, it would overflow, and the political strength of the interest group would go to 0, and they'd become either really angry with you or really happy with you. And this meant, like, this was game breaking to the extent that you could no longer try and pass certain laws until, like, you pissed off the interest group enough for them to, like, kind of return, but then they wouldn't return with all their clout. It was really obnoxious, and now, apparently, or hopefully, they fixed this bug. I mean, there's a lot of all the other bugs that are kind of, like, pretty obnoxious. Like, the overflow bugs in general are just, like, kind of the worst, and so them fixing them is pretty good. IGs always leave government if able to do so, even when in a party. This is interesting because right now you could just keep them in government by just not reforming the government. If they like force exit it, that'll be interesting. Discriminated pops have their political strength reduced by 90% as intended. Didn't know this wasn't working as intended. And so they fixed these two, which probably makes discriminatory governments maybe a little bit better. I'm not sure entirely. Right now, it seems like it's best to just open up as much as possible because migration is really strong in order to get full migration attraction. Expeditions sometimes, like, hopefully they picked. Expedition leaders are now always properly returned to service. I've had this bug repeatedly where you just couldn't access your general anymore. They would just disappear into nothingness, and it made me not want to do expeditions ever. Military buildings are now usable to provide more battalions or flotillas that their level can support. I don't know what this means. Unable. Okay, I guess previously I've never encountered this particular bug, but yeah. So fixed a bug where treaty ports could give you access to markets in the states outside the same state region. Okay. But yeah, a lot of bugs just get fixed, and then minor bug fixes probably aren't even worth reading, and then that's it. So, the big things are going to be obviously what we talked about at the very start. If you made it through all the way to the end, then, you're kind of going through, like, some of the finer tooth, like, or finer tooth comb? Something like that. Pretty excited about this patch. They fixed a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of still broken. The AI is really bad at diplomacy and military, but some of that got fixed with like 1.04 and 1.06. And 1.1 is like they're reworking the legitimacy. The morale thing doesn't seem that big to me, but man oh man, does the what is it? The interface is going to be so big for like newer players and players that are not that familiar with the game. One of the reasons I haven't recommended this game to any of my friends is because the UI is really opaque and unfun to deal with, especially if you're like a brand new player, and hopefully this fixes this a little bit. Anyways, if you like this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. If there's anything you in particular want me to cover, either in a tutorial or a video of some kind, feel free to let me know, and have a good day.